Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway. Now, did you know that I am actually an expert in painting and decorating model trains? And today I'm going to show you how to do it like a professional. Honest. Okay, that introduction was a complete lie. The truth is, I have never attempted to paint any model in my life, but ever since I've started making videos, really, people have suggested that I give it a try. Now, I know me, okay? I'm 98% sure that if I so much as looked at a pot of paint, I would end up having to redecorate this entire room because it would be a disaster. But nonetheless, people do keep suggesting it, and I do keep reading emails and comments about it. And then recently I bought a 3D printer and I started creating a few models of my own. I don't know, have I mentioned that before? Yeah, sorry about that if I'm going overboard on that. But now seems like as good a time as any to actually give it a try. There's a tiny chance it will actually work out well, and if it does, then my models will look a little bit better. And even if it does end badly, at least I'll know that I tried and failed, and then I can say for certain that I'm no good at it when people ask me to try. So, in front of me, you can't see it all at the moment, but I have bought all of the gear. At the moment, it's all the gear and no idea for me. It's actually cost me about the same as a locomotive, so if you think about it, it's not too bad. And there's a lot of stuff here, so I'm going to unbox this today. None of it has been tried yet, so this is not a tutorial. This is a fool finding out whether or not this is actually going to be for him or not, and it's probably not, so don't take this as a tutorial by any means. But hopefully this will be fun at the very least. It should be interesting, and if it all goes badly, at least you get a bit of entertainment out of it. So, I can't believe I've done this. And yes, there are friends of mine in this hobby that have pressured me into this, so thank you for that as well. When I'm covered in paint and this room is destroyed, I bought this. It's an airbrush and a compressor. Now, there are lots of disciplines in the world of painting model trains. There are those who like to use brushes to paint their models. I know my friend Callum Wilcox likes to use spray cans. I've gone for an airbrush, basically because I know I'm not that great with a hand brush, and I just prefer the idea of being able to paint everything with the one tool rather than having to have loads of different cans for each colour, and this way I might be able to mix some different colours, and you know, if I can train my muscle memory to use this airbrush, then I won't have to learn to use each different type of can that might be available. So yeah, this is an airbrush and a compressor. I mean, come on, everybody loves compressors. There's a lot you can do with compressors, probably some naughty things as well, but not today, but you never know. It's a handy thing to have. So this was from Amazon. This cost me £94.99, and it's got more or less 5-star reviews right across the board, and it comes with a few different nozzles. It's a 0.2, 0.3 and 0.5mm nozzle. I think the 0.2 is for the fine stuff, so if I ever get to the stage where I can do lining and such, I don't know what I'm talking about here. Maybe this will allow me to do it. The next thing I bought off Amazon was this. This was a bit cheaper. This was just an airbrush cleaning pot. And I think there might be a cleaning kit inside here as well. Apparently this is really important for obviously flushing out the airbrush, getting rid of the excess paint, and also cleaning it for when you've finished using it. So this thing was quite inexpensive. It cost me £13.59. And then also to help with the cleanup process, because my worst nightmare is having a tool that's all gummed up with paint and you can't use it anymore. So I did buy this. This is some airbrush cleaner. This is a 200ml bottle and it cost me £7.50, but apparently this goes quite a long way, as do the paints supposedly, which is another reason why I quite like the idea of an airbrush. So speaking of paints, I bought these. So these are acrylic paints that are designed for use with airbrushes. It's a company called Vallejo, I'm not entirely sure, but I've been recommended these. Apparently these are good. And I've gone with this set, which is a railway colour set. It does say Europe, so I'm not entirely sure if that means these are going to be the colours used on model trains over here in the UK and such, but they look all right, don't they? There's a good range there. Maybe I could do some mixing. It's going to be enough to get started at least, isn't it? So this was quite expensive. This cost me £40.08. But as you can see, well, there's loads of stuff in here. I think there's 16 different colours. So, I mean, that's going to be enough for me to get started. And apparently these last for ages. So that should be good. And then I also bought this. This is some airbrush thinner. This was pretty cheap. This cost £2, £2.57, and that's just so. I think if you're using the smaller nozzle, as I understand it, you need to thin the paint down a little bit so that you get a good even spray or whatever. But we'll find out. We'll find out. Maybe I won't need to use this with the airbrush paints that I've got, but if I need some, I'll be stuck if I haven't got it. So that's that. And then the final product is something that my friend Callum Wilcox of S&DJR 7F88 recommended, and he's been very helpful. I've been asking him all sorts of irritating questions, and he's been very patient in answering them all for me. So it's this. You use this on cars, of all things, which is a bit terrifying, thinking that I might be using this on a little tiny model. But yeah, this is Autotech Filler Primer Spray Paint. So this is a primer. It will ready the surface of whatever I'm painting so that it will take paint nicely, but it's also a filler which will hopefully fill in some of the imperfections in 3D printing. Some of the layer lines, for example, could easily be filled in with this, and I bought 3 bottles of this for £15.99 on eBay, I think it was. So thank you, Callum. I will definitely give that a try. So this is not really going to be a review because I don't have the experience to tell you what makes a good or a bad airbrush, but I am going to unbox the airbrush today. We're going to set it up and try it for the first time ever and see if I can paint one of my wagons. Let's try. So we're going to start by taking a look at the airbrush and compressor. At the moment, I don't know a great deal about this. I only know that it has good reviews on Amazon and that the compressor looked like quite a substantial, beefy thing. To say it's only an airbrush, I definitely wanted a compressor that had an air tank on it because that acts as kind of like a buffer between you and whatever tool you're running. So, you know, you're not relying on the compressor having to generate the air live. And hopefully that means that the compressor won't be running all the damn time as well. So it might be a little bit quieter, but yeah, it just seemed a better idea. All right, so let's take a look at this. I don't understand what that means. So here we have some sort of information pack with the instructions. I don't suppose I will go over this in too great a detail on camera because I don't think you'll be interested, but of course I will need to read this before I set the thing up and try it. I think we may be on the German section at the moment. But yeah, that shows you the compressor and how it all fits together. That's an exploded diagram of a slightly different colour, isn't it? And then here we are about the actual airbrush itself. It's a complete kit by the looks of it, with all the different needles and everything. So yeah, we'll take a look. Let's pull this out though to start with and actually see this thing for the first time. I've been dying to get this out, but I've not done it. I've saved it for the video. Right. So yeah, I mean, most of this is just compressor, literally. Fairly heavy thing, fairly substantial. Right, let's open this up and take a look. Blimey, okay. So here's the airbrush kit, I assume. Let's admire the compressor to start with though, because this thing looks pretty beefy. Yeah, to say this is just to run an airbrush, this looks pretty good, doesn't it? Right, I can see that there is a pressure control on this, which is great, because that means I can alter the actual pressure going to the airbrush, which seems like a good idea. There's a gauge on there, so I can see what the pressure's doing. Apparently it's only 150 watt, that's not very much, is it? And it can operate up to 4 bar, which I think is more than you need for an airbrush. So that's really, really cool. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. It's supposed to be good for the job, so I'm going to trust that it is. Okay, let's take a look at the interesting part. Or maybe you don't consider this the interesting part. I don't know. But I think this is the actual airbrush kit. Oh, it is. Oh, there it all is. Right, let's take a look. Right, so I need to get this plastic off. Ah, yes. Good old Rusty came into his own there, didn't he? All right. Okay, well, let's see what we've got. There's some stuff rattling around in there. Okay, so what's this? Put that down until I've read the instructions. Well, I'll talk you through the stuff I do recognise. So the first thing here is an air hose. Obviously, that's what connects the air compressor to the airbrush. Looks like it's reasonably long, so I might be able to have the compressor on the floor while I sit higher up. Might be good for the noise. There are some pipettes inside here. I'm not sure why this one's over here. Are they different sizes or something? I don't know, but that's going to be good for distributing thinner and the paints and such into the airbrush itself, although I'm hoping the paints I've bought will actually have pipettes in them. I think that sounds like a good idea, or at least some way of just dropping small amounts of paint into it. What's this? This looks like a little tool of some description. I'll find out what that's for when I read the instructions. Let's take a look at the airbrush itself. Oh, there's another pipette underneath it. Okay, that's where that one belongs then. There it is. Well, it seems fine, doesn't it? I mean, there are airbrushes and then there are airbrushes, apparently, but yeah, this one seems all right. It's got the working lever here. This is the reservoir in the top where the paint goes. Yeah, it all looks fine. Yeah, well, I'll try it. I mean, like I say, I don't know what makes a good or a bad airbrush, but it seems all right. It seems to be nicely made at the very least, but we shall see. And then I suppose these are the different nozzles. It did say on the box that there were 3 different sorts of nozzles, and in fact it says on the sides, look, so that's the 0.5, 0.2 and 0.3 millimeter nozzles, and I think there are different needles to go with them as well. I assume one of them is already fitted, or maybe it isn't. Let's see. I think that's what these are. Yes, no, they obviously can't be already fitted then, because here is the 0.5 mil, the 0.2 mil, and the 0.3 mil needle. Although I'm fairly certain there is one inside here already. I could be wrong. There is a needle inside already, so I'm not entirely sure what size this one will be, but I will read the instructions and find out, so not a problem. Well, that all looks very good. That's all, it's all present, isn't it? That's about the only evaluative comment I can make at the moment. Let's just pop that to one side then. I'm excited about that compressor. I don't know, it just appeals to me, that does. Right, then there's the cleaning kit. Now, I just checked my order on this because apparently this is supposed to be more than just an airbrush cleaning pot. So yeah, there's supposed to be all the brushes and stuff in here as well. I'm hoping that there will be. Let's have a look. And yes, I can see that there is. All right. So there's a couple of key rings inside here. And is this thing called a knurl or something? I think that's for cleaning out the nozzles effectively. But again, it's important that you haven't got paint stuck inside the nozzle and such when you store the thing. So yeah, I'm going to take this cleaning of the thing quite seriously right from the beginning. And then what are these? I think this is just the apparatus that holds the pot and the various tools. So we'll find out about that later on. Hopefully this will be fairly self-explanatory, this thing. And then we've got the pot itself. And I think this pot, oh, it's glass. Wow, that's quality. Yeah, this means you can just spray your excess paint into here with the cleaner mixed into it or whatever, and it doesn't go everywhere. So yeah, I think the airbrush will go into this little rubberized hole. And then there's even a filter. Ah, that's what those little pads were then. There's a filter so that all the paint won't come right out of it again, but some air can escape. Oh, that's going to be great. I like that. I like the idea of no mess, because that's going to be a problem up here. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it then. I'm not going to start showing you the thinners and stuff, because you'll see those as I start to use them. So I think the next thing is going to be to read the instructions, find out how to get started, build a fortress to stop the paint going everywhere. I'll show you that. And then we'll give this thing a try, probably with water or something to start with, just so I can get used to using the airbrush. Oh, how exciting. All right, let's do it. So the first job is going to be to devise some sort of paint-proof work zone using a cardboard box, this piece of wood, some sticky tape and lots of paper. Man, let's give this a try. I've also bought some aprons for me to wear to protect my infinitely valuable Sam's Train shirts, and also a messy mat to put on the carpet so that I don't spoil my floor. They haven't arrived yet though, so I'm going to have to be careful today, although I do have a Hornby track mat which I can use. I don't really mind what happens to that. Right, what do you reckon to that? It's not pretty, is it? But I reckon it'll do the job. I think I've covered all the gaps, so hopefully it won't let paint out of those. And if I just put some blank sheets of paper inside here, those I can swap when they get too filthy. Like so. Right, well, I still haven't tested the compressor or the airbrush, so I'm going to give them their first ever try. So there is the compressor. Here is the airbrush. I'm going to hook the airbrush right up. And then we'll have a look at the compressor itself and see if I can get the setting right. I'm looking for between 10 and 15 psi. That's what the paint manufacturer recommends. Okay, let's get a look at the length of this thing. Is this actually going to be any good for me? Maybe I will need a longer one. No, that doesn't seem too bad. What do you reckon that is? It's got to be at least maybe 1.5 meters, 2 meters. Yeah, probably 1.5 meters. Right, so can these go either way? Does it matter which way the air flows through these? Well, we'll see. So there we go, that's one end hooked up to the compressor, nice and tight. Now I need the airbrush itself. Okay, so that is all hooked up. I think then I will say, if you're wearing headphones, be warned, because I don't know how noisy this thing's going to be. All right, let's plug it in and let's give it some juice. Oh, it's not noisy at all. Wow, that was quick. So that has gone straight up to nearly 60 psi, which is the most this airbrush is supposed to work with. So I need to turn this down for a start. I'm hoping it's not going to damage the airbrush having so high a pressure through it. So I do need to turn that down and let some of the air out. Yep, I think that's pretty good. So the paint manufacturer recommended between 10 and 15 pounds per square inch. Horrible unit, apologies for that. And I think that is more or less where I've got it now. Yeah, feels pretty good. Okay, so I need to give the airbrush a little test now. So I think I'm just going to start by putting some water in here and get used to just spraying fluid out of the gun. All right, let's try it. Yeah, that's worked. It's not showing up very well on camera though. Okay. Yeah, well you can sort of see. Yeah, you can see where the water was. So it is working. It's working as it should. That means everything's adjusted properly. So I suppose I should get rid of my paper. And what do you reckon? I try a little bit of paint. Just on the paper. Let's see what happens. Oh, look at this. How many unboxings is this today? Wow. Right, what to choose? There's all sorts inside here. I think I'll do something dark to begin with. So let's see. Well, there's a black. That kind of makes sense. So I'm going to give this a shake. We'll see whether or not I need to thin it. I think I'll just put a few drops in and see what happens. All right, here goes. Wish me luck. 4 drops. How about that? It's very little. Don't want to waste the stuff. Let's give this a shot then. Let's see if we can get any to come out. Maybe there's too little in there. I really don't know. Let's see. Wow. Would you look at that? Could I write my name? Alright, and then if I pull back further on the lever, I guess it should come out a bit more thickly. If I pull back, it should be a larger jet. Yeah, you know what? I think this is going to work pretty nicely, actually. Now, whether or not this needs thinning, I'm not entirely sure, but that is quite a nice effect, I have to say. So here is a wagon. I think this is an LSWR wagon body that I tried to create, and I want to try and paint it. Now, the first thing I'm going to want to do is prime it using this filler and primer, as I explained earlier on. But this stuff can take up to 24 hours to dry, and obviously I don't really want that today because I want to get the video done. So yesterday I actually took another one of these bodies and I did put the primer onto it, and you can see actually it's done a fairly good job. A lot of the lines have sort of disappeared, or at least softened on the roof, and a lot of the layer lines have completely disappeared from the side of this thing, which is really, really cool. Now, I did notice though that while I was applying the primer, I did this outside because it was very messy, that the primer would pool up around the bottom of the model. Maybe that's because I was using too much, maybe it's because I was doing it on a flat surface. So I've actually built this little device, which has the little nubs on it that my chassis do, so that all of the different chassis I've designed can actually fit onto this thing, and they can be held reasonably snugly while I do my painting and such. Now, they are a little bit loose, so I'm thinking I might just pop a bit of blue tack on this as well, just to hold it in place, and that way I can hold the model without ever having to touch it, and I could paint the whole thing if I wanted to. So let's try that. Right, so I'm thinking I will paint this a nice brown colour or something along those lines. But I'm going to try a little something first, just to practice dexterity with the airbrush. So what I'm going to try is a technique called pre-shading. I saw this on an online tutorial video, and I will put the link down in the description so you can check it out if you like. But basically you go over some of the exposed areas and just sort of put a little bit of shade on them before you paint your main colour, and that should just make the thing look a little bit cooler. So whether this is actually something that you want to do with models, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to give it a try and see what happens. So I'm going to start shading around some of the framework of this model, see what happens. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to do. So now I've shaded all of the sort of protruding parts, and to be honest, the amount of paint used seems to be absolutely tiny. I mean, there's still plenty in here. Maybe it's starting to go a bit light now, but yeah, that was absolutely fine. So, I mean, this appears to be dry already. I mean, look, I can touch it and none's coming off on my hands. So I'm going to leave this to dry for a second. I'm going to clean out the black. I'm going to choose a different colour, and I'll see about painting the whole body. Alright, it's exciting. So I need to pick a colour for the main wagon body. I did think some sort of brown, so let's take a look at this. That's hull red, apparently. That's mud brown. Now maybe that will be okay. Sand yellow, don't think so. There's white. Satin varnish, ooh, that might be interesting. I'll have to try that. Aluminium. Rust, there's a rust colour, that should be fun. Yellow, that's a rust colour. Yeah, alright then, we'll go with the mud brown. Yep, this is just a practice, so I'm going to go with the mud brown. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I don't want to choose something too dark because I want to see how that pre-shading looks. Let's put 7 drops of paint in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll call it 8 drops because that's easier to match. And then let's try some thinner. Let's try half a part. Let's just put 4 in, see what difference that makes. 4. Right, let's have a go then. I'm not worrying too much about the roof at the moment. I might try and mask that off at some point, but yeah, let's just try it on the side of the body, see what it looks like. Okay, so there you have it. Now, the choice of the mud brown was a horrible choice. It's really not a good colour for the wagon, but I think I've got a halfway even coverage, not so much on the roof, but certainly on the body, which looks decent. You can kind of see how the pre-shading thing is supposed to work. I think I needed to be much more precise with it, but yeah, on the ends particularly, that just looks like a bit of shadowing, doesn't it? So yeah, I think with some practice, that could be pretty good. Up next though, it's dry. I mean, it feels more or less exactly dry. It's been a little while I've left it. So I've got some masking tape, I've got some scissors to cut the tape, and I've selected sea grey. And I'm going to try and do the roof in a slightly different colour. Again, this is just to practice with. This is obviously not going to be a work of art when it's finished, but hopefully I'll be able to mask off the body and paint the roof, and hopefully that will make it look, again, even slightly better. So let's give this a go. So the sides are not very well protected, but if I aim to go from the front and from the back, that should be all right. Okay, so I'm going to try not thinning it this time, just to see what it says. On the box it does say that this can be used with up to 2mm nozzles or something without being thinned, and it did seem to work when I put the black in, didn't it? So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, shake it and give it a go. All right, wish me luck then, folks. Now this is the right colour. This does look good. Oh, that is lovely. That seems like, wow. That seems ultra precise. I think I'm going to save it and just do another little coat. It dries ever so quick. But that is looking great. Let's keep going a little bit. Right, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. I could always mask up again and do another coat if I think it needs it. Right, let's pull off the tape, have a quick look. Now look, the tape didn't actually get too much paint on it, so obviously I'm pointing it in roughly the right direction. Oh yeah, look at that. Well, there's no paint bleed, not at all. I think for a first job, that will do. With the right choice of colour, I think this technique could work absolutely fine. Yeah, I suppose I need to know how to mix colours, because I could probably produce quite a lot of nice shades with the paint set that I've got, but I don't know how to do it. But still, that's alright, is that? That doesn't look too bad at all. Woo, fun. Well, the airbrush is cleaned and drying. That was fairly easy to do, just like cleaning out a locomotive really. And more importantly, I have the first thing I have ever painted. Now, is this a particularly good paint job? No, obviously not. I was horribly inaccurate with the pre-shading. I really wasn't happy with my choice of brown, although it is growing on me a little bit actually. I think it looks better than it did. But we're talking baby steps here with me. I mean, look, the room isn't destroyed. I didn't get paint anywhere but on the model, more or less. A little bit on my, even not much on my fingers. Haven't washed my hands yet. Look, just one little bit on my finger. For me, that is absolutely monumental. So this is my first job. I need to practice with the airbrush. I need to get more accurate with it. I need to figure out what sort of proportion of paint and thinner to use to get the best results. I need to twiddle the pressure just to make sure that I'm getting nice even coverage. But I've made a start, and I think that is the scariest part. And this is the second time this year that I've done something entirely new, but thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's also the second time I've done something like that where I was very scared about giving it a try. I mean, painting is just something I never wanted to do because I knew I'd be awful at it. Well, maybe if I practice, I might actually become adequate at it. That would be amazing. But I am incredibly proud of this, slightly dodgy as it may be in areas, to say that I've created this entire wagon from scratch and been able to decorate it. That's something I never thought I'd be able to do. But this video is probably long enough now by quite a long way. I've rambled on quite enough by quite a long way. So I will leave you with the wagon. We'll put it onto the track, let it run around. You can see what it looks like compared with some better wagons. Those are the gold standard, I suppose. For now though, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Do let me know down in the comments and include any tips because heaven knows I need them. And I'll see you around. All right, cheers folks. Take care.